Welcome to the LowCsrbMD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we have always said, we are bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor.
Hello and welcome to the LowCsrbMD podcast. We have a return guest today, Tro. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. This is going to be fun. This is but we had another group just like him, somebody who's been doing metabolic health and exercise. We had Jamie Seaman on a similar mission. We had, oh my God, I'm blanking on Ben Bakikio on a similar mission, right? Similar mission, getting people healthy with exercise. This is going to be an absolute great one. I can't, we have somebody that actually decided to come back.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, man. Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. It only took him 3 years to talk him into coming back. But Jeff and I have a history together. I was watching what he was doing. I actually trained with him for a while, and he was carb loading the heck out of me, and I was drinking Gatorade every day and adding it to
I was abusing him.
Adding it to stuff. And I'm like, I don't think this is working for me. I'm getting stronger and I'm feeling good. But Jeff is a guy who works with world-class athletes. You're a master sports nutritionist, right? Like you train all the other sports nutrition people at NASN, and you have Tri-System Nutrition where you do all the workouts and gym stuff and torture people and work them out. You used to work them out for 2 hours, and man, you were working with you still do, but world-class athletes, weightlifters, and just trying to pinch out that last little reserve they had. So tell people how I came in and messed up your life and what you've been doing and how your practice has transformed. I know at the beginning you were pointing to Gary Taubes as an example of a lunatic, and now you're saying,
right.
yeah, now it makes sense. So,
right.
So give people a little history on that don't know.
So I have two jobs. I'm the director of the National Association of Sports Nutrition, and we certify and license specific credentials like personal training, health advocate, resistance training certification with the SMART training. We do with Dr. Ben's book. Dr. Ben Bokikio's book is a textbook in that course. And then we also have a licensed primary and master sports nutritionist. And that kind of stemmed out of that's what started the whole organization in 1996. We felt like there was a gap. Medical nutritional advice from registered dietitians were not addressing performance. They weren't addressing body composition. They weren't addressing performance or enhancing performance. And they weren't addressing recovery from exercise. They were, and not doing too well, addressing what you ate in the hospital and therapeutic menus. And to this day, there's a little bit of butting heads between registered dietitians and sports nutritionists. And so I've been doing that since 1996. I also have a center where we do personal training, medical, nutritional programs that are implemented by people like the doctors on this podcast. They will write a prescription and we'll help fulfill that prescription of eating right, eating a specific regime, and exercising a specific way to improve metabolic health. I didn't always do that though. We started in 1996, just centered around performance, making people jump higher and run faster and look better, get on stage and flex their muscles, and that's the kind of people we tried to attract. And we gained a reputation there, still promoting Gatorade and six small meals a day and an hour of cardio a day. And that's the way we did it in 1996. And a lot of people struggled with it, but we got those fit people that actually responded to it. That small percentage. Tim Noakes estimates that it's about 15% of the world population, and that was what we were focused on. These people that were naturally insulin sensitive, naturally could handle higher carbohydrate, and we were just kind of pushing them that little nth degree, that little bit. And it was a stressful job. It was full of narcissistic people that their whole day depended upon whether they had a good workout or whether their last competition was good, and it was hard. There were a lot of days where I was just beating my head against the wall, just trying to deal with very temperamental, high carbohydrate people. And but I was confident in it. I had done it for decades. I had done it for 25 years. And then a client of mine that did okay, but not too well. He did the program for a while. Dr. Brian gave me a call on the phone, and I thought, huh, this guy didn't do too well on my program. Now he's calling me on the phone. What's the purpose of the call? Originally, I thought he was trying to sell me some supplement or get me to get in a downline and some, I don't know, some kind of network marketing thing. And after about a 2-hour conversation, I found out that this guy was sincerely trying to redirect me, but not redirect me just a little bit, not try to turn me on to a different spin on carb loading or a different spin on training. He was telling me that what I was doing was actually not helping people, was making people worse, especially if you are predisposed to diabetes, or if you're hyperinsulinemic, or you have metabolic syndrome or any of this. I'm just going to make people worse. And you know, when you tell a personal trainer who's been doing this a few decades that he's doing things wrong, you immediately take the offense to it. I thought, this guy's telling me, you know, telling me to eat high fat and raise people's cholesterol and carb deplete them, and that all my athletes are going to lose lean body mass, lose performance. You know, if I follow this guy's advice, I'm going to go bankrupt. It's not going to work. I'm going to make everyone mad at me. And but the research was undeniable, and my own test, when I took my insulin and found out it was 10, and I thought I was going to be at the bottom at 2. You know what? Come on, I'm eating oatmeal and brown rice.
Yeah. He's telling me all the stuff he's eating. I'm like, all that stuff's messing you up, man.
You mean the smart carbs? You know, you were doing a lot of smart carbs.
Yeah,
right? The complex carbohydrate. I know the bodybuilding training. Yeah.
Eating yams, eating yams, and then having my pre-workout meal that had carbs in it, and my post-workout meal, and trying to induce an insulin spike, and I thought I had it wired, and in fact, I could do it in my sleep.
But that was the standard of care. That's what everyone was doing. Like at the time, everyone was doing the same thing. And then, so Jeff goes through, rewrites his entire nutrition curriculum, changes everything up. And then who comes rolling in? Ben Bakikio. And then he messed up his exercise part of it. So he had to revamp that. A guy who's teaching it, can you imagine the frustration people that just went through his class and like, wait a minute, you're doing the exact opposite of what you just taught me 6 months ago. Yes.
And there was fallout and pushback. And we talked about that in our original, I was going through it 3 years ago when we were in the midst of rewriting it, and we lost membership. The people that we credentialed said, "I no longer want to be associated with you." But now people that say that are changing their mind, and they're actually coming back. There's some people that said some real harsh words, you know, called me a quack, are now saying, well, there might be some credence to what he's saying, because in my own center, we're getting better results than we've had before with less effort, because we're doing things according to physiological design. We're not fighting things. I used to think, well, we're going to make you carb tolerant by feeding you more carbs. We're just like we can make you alcohol tolerant or caffeine tolerant. We're just going to feed you more, stuff you with them until your body adapts. And all that was doing was just making things worse.
Can I ask you a question? So how long have you been in the fitness industry?
33 years.
33 years. Okay. So you've seen 3 decades worth of exercise training. Okay. Yes. And I wonder, I want to rewind 35 years ago. Okay. I want to rewind 35 years ago and look back at the 10 years before that. So go back 45 years ago, because when you started, okay, the obesity epidemic may have just been in its infancy, right?
Yes.
So all of the education you got, you know, was pre-Coca-Cola, right? Was about 35 years ago. You'd imagine all the textbooks and all the science journals and all that kind of things going, right? It was about 50 years ago, coming from an education base that was 50 years old, where this was before, maybe they didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't even know what was going on. Insulin resistance was probably rare. I mean, if you look at the obesity epidemic and you go back 50 years, You know, most of the states in the United States, they didn't even have like a 20% obesity rate. Now every state is above 20%.
Just go back to the Jersey Shore 50 years ago and take a picture of the people on the beach.
You got it. So
compared to today.
So they were dealing with the thinnest, leanest, like people.
Yes.
And now, so I wonder, because you're coming at it like, you know, how could I have been doing this, you know, 30 years ago? But look at how much society's changed, right? Look at the physiology change just over the past 35 years. You know, the person that you first trained was probably a lot more carb tolerant than the person you're training right now. Right?
That's correct.
Would you say that's accurate? Or?
I'd say that's very accurate. But then we inundated them with no fat, low fat fillers. So we took somebody very healthy and we inundated them with that. And now 30 years later, we're dealing with the second generation of that. So I don't have the education that you guys have, but I theorize that there's some epigenetics there, that this insulin resistance from the last generation is already being passed down, and that's why we're seeing juvenile diabetes in prepubescent, in 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds. We're seeing type 2 diabetes,
and we're seeing massive babies, right? They already have insulin resistance before they're even out of the womb.
So I think we have a generational response, that we have fat people that have become insulin resistant in their generation, already setting their next generation up genetically to be prone to that. And then if they continue to inundate themselves, it's just gonna.
Well, then like Tro, your family was like, they go, oh, you guys are just genetically obese. That's just the way it is. But if everyone eats the same way and you have the same traditions, the same cultures, then everyone's obese in that family too, in that culture.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you look, so actually just along those lines, you know, in the New England Journal of Medicine about 6 years ago, they looked at the Framingham study and they watched obesity over the 25 years of the Framingham study at the time. And literally they watched as the clusters of obesity, the links between people, you know, imagine all the schools, all the families, the friends, right? These social groups got obese together. And the entire group got more obese, right, in these social clusters. And you saw these little pockets of non-obese people kind of cluster together. And I'm imagining it was like your gym, right? Or let's say a church, you know?
Yes.
You're right.
So
you know?
Gary Taubes, who originally, in the master license, we said, look at this guy, he's crazy. And here's who not to follow. And now he's like, sorry, we're wrong. Listen to this guy. Literally, he's been in the curriculum since 1996. Just the first half of it was, this guy's crazy. The second half, this guy's a genius. So he likes to say, fit people exercise. He likes to say that if you, in some of his books, Gary Taubes' books, you say, well, fit people naturally are more energetic, so they're more prone to exercise. And so it's not that exercise makes them fit, it's that they are genetically predisposed to be more fit, so they get rid of some of their energy through exercise.
Well, plus you're looking at a population of people willing to pay you to help them be better, so they're going to be more dedicated to what you tell them, and hopefully you're telling them the right thing at this point, because people who don't care. There's like, I'm going to eat whatever I want. I don't care if I gain 40 pounds, it doesn't matter. But other people say, look, I want to be as healthy as I can. I may not be the swimsuit model, but you know, I want to be healthy and I want to be able to play with my grandkids when the time comes. And I think that's one thing that differentiates Tro's practice and my practice compared to most medical. These are people who seek, that want to be healthy and they want to avoid meds. They want to have a healthier lifestyle. Other people just give me a pill. You know, there's a difference.
Yes. So before I met you guys, before I was metabolically in tune, before my clientele were interested in metabolic health, it was get the pretty person, get the muscular guy, put him in the gym, and then when the next guy, when somebody comes in, they're like, I want to be like that guy. They don't realize that guy's always been that way, and they're just kind of a poster child. But my center right now is full of people that have lost 10, 20, 50, 100 pounds, and they're fit and healthy, but they might have that loose skin because they lost 50 or 100 pounds. and that they're an example of, hey, there is true transformation out there. It's not just somebody that is genetically predisposed to that.
And even you, man, when I was trying to convince him, I go, just get your insulin checked, and it was high. And then for a guy who works out, he's an energizer. He's like a Sean Baker type guy. And then he goes low carb and loses a bunch of weight. And his wife goes, he's lost his butt. He's lost too much weight. We got to stop this and change up what we're doing for him, because of he's so, once he made himself really insulin sensitive, he can get away with more stuff. Right.
Yeah. So I threw myself into intermittent fasting, into 24-hour fasting, and I cut out all my carbs. I did it all at once. And in 6 weeks, I went from 216 to 196. And in 6 weeks.
In a fit guy. And it's ridiculous. That works out. He's a workaholic, man. He's working all the time, training with people. He's bouncing around. He's very motivating. And so it's not like you were sitting on the couch doing nothing at that, before that. You were always working out.
No, I attacked it from a different way. So I went from, my bench press and all those lifts kind of went down a little bit, especially the first 6 weeks. That's natural. But because I lost so much weight, I was doing 30 plus pull-ups, one-handed pull-ups, because all of a sudden I'm 30 pounds lighter. And so your sense of performance goes through the roof because you're lighter. You can propel yourself. You can obviously jump higher and run faster if you have less drag. So yeah, that it took a period of adjustment there. I remember going to Taco Tuesday with you, just saying, listen, I need to stop losing weight. And they kept saying, eat more. And high fat foods are so satiating that carb-induced appetite goes away. So it was hard for me to eat 4,000 calories a day when it consisted of oatmeal and brown rice. I could easily put it in because I was hungry for more. But
yeah, so looking back, Tro, the dilemma I was in is like, Jeff's a great guy, integrity. He's just so motivating. He's a great workout guy. But I was like, I can't send people if he's going to carb load. My diabetics are going to get worse, right? So that's why I pulled him aside, started talking to him. I'm like, look, I'd love to refer to you, but I really can't. It's not personal. It's just, it's not going to work for my patients. And so when he changed it up, then all of a sudden these patients are like just doing unbelievable. So now it's like we're joined at the hip, because I'm like, hey, go see Jeff. He'll give you a discount. I'll give you a discount if you're his patient. And because we're going to maximize what both of us are doing, doing the right exercise and get the nutrition right, and they'll crush it. And Jeff knows the nutrition. So he can, before he would like be saying the exact opposite of what I was saying. And it's like, okay, this is going to confuse people. Well, and also what I loved about you, Jeff, too, is that you're bold enough to say, hey, it's not one size fits all. And that's what I always say to my patients. Some people can get away with more than others. Other people can't. And we can look at their metabolic health and kind of determine that.
Yeah. So one of the things we do here is if somebody has a low carb product that might have a stevia in it or monk fruit or something like that in there, I literally sit them down in the office here. We take their ketones and their blood glucose. We have them eat it. We do our nutrition appointment, do the body fat, change their menus, change their workout. 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, at the end of the appointment, we do it again and see, okay, allulose. Does it affect you? Does it not? I mean, you can generally say it's not good for most people, or it's good for some, or something like that. But here it is. Here's the test. N of 1. Did it affect your ketones? Did it affect your blood glucose? Yes or no on an empty stomach? And then they can go away with a clear conscience saying, yes, I can have this if I have a sweet tooth, or no, this is, I've had people, their ketones go down, blood sugar go up, and all they did was do a couple drops of stevia. That's crazy, isn't it? But some
wow, that's great you're doing that. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And some people I think are more sensitive to one than the other. It's just it is something.
And I don't know the mechanism. I don't know why that is for some people, but we know the proofs in the test. Is this good for you? Is it going to knock you out of ketosis, or is it okay?
I've found that basically, I can lower my ketones just thinking about food, just thinking about food. So, but you're right. A lot of these sweeteners, I want to stick on that a little bit because, you brought it up. Some people I've seen just do fine. But I'm not one of those people. I'll tell you that. I'm not one of those people. I can consistently get GI upset if I have allulose.
Yeah.
I will consistently be hungry if I eat something that's sweetened. I'll be hungrier. and it'll make me eat more. And oftentimes the sweetness, and I don't think it's anything to do with sugar. That, I mean, this is like sugar has its own signals, but it will like erase even that sweet taste after, like, let's say I have a big steak or some salmon and I'm full, right? Even that sweet taste will kind of take that fullness away, like as if it didn't happen. So, you know, I tell people, look, you know, my wife's got a company that uses monk fruit and erythritol, right? If she didn't put that in there, you wouldn't eat it, right? If she didn't put that in there, right, you wouldn't eat it, right? So meaning, like, most of the time, you know, we're using that sweet taste to eat more and to enjoy our food.
Yes.
And if your goal is losing weight, like, you know, you maybe that's something to consider lowering, right? If your goal is to enjoy food and remain in as much ketosis as possible, if that's your goal, right, then fine, go ahead, have some, you know. But like, if your goal is metabolic health and weight loss, these things usually are not, they're like break the glass in case of emergency. That's it. You know, shouldn't be having them, you know, all the time at least. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts are, if men made it, don't eat it. So
yeah. Why? Because man makes you want to eat more, right? Even grandma, right? Grandma would sit down, if she made apple pie and it didn't taste good, what would happen? You wouldn't eat, right? So if man made it, it's designed to eat more, and even nature knows how to make you eat more. But, you know, look at acorns, right? It's designed to keep that, you know, squirrel fiending, right? Look at fruits, right? How many people here would eat, you know, unripened fruit, right? Do we sit there, have like green strawberries and just bite them? And no, right? So even nature is, look at dairy. Dairy is like the prime example. It's literally made so another mammal will be triggered to eat, right? Like the mama calf is feeding the baby calf.
Yes.
Right. So I'm with you that if man made it, don't eat it. But even nature's triggered us a bit, you know.
Even nature has, and so now that doesn't mean that you completely eliminate it, never have it. I think that the psychology of deprivation lends to binge eating, right? So if you can moderate it, then you can have it. But if you're an alcoholic, you can't have one drink, you know. If you're
I think that's a huge thing. And I think a lot of people, it's that we talk to Tro, they go, okay, can I make some, you know, I like chocolate. Can I do some low carb chocolate? Can I do this? And that's always, the first questions are usually coffee, alcohol, and sweets, right? Because they'll go, can I have the xylitol sweets? Can I do this? But you know, what I find is the people who do more like carnivore, they do more, they take the sweet taste away, they don't relapse as much as people who are having the sweet taste all that. I guess some people go, well, I love to have my pancakes, so I'm gonna have keto pancakes, I'm gonna have keto muffin after my lunch, I'm gonna have keto cookies, I'm gonna have keto crackers, I'm gonna have keto chips. And like, you're not changing your habits at all of what you've always done that's got you back. So I think those are the people, when I see it relapse, that's when it's going to happen. The people who say, look, I'm not jumping all the way in, I'm just going to put my toes in the water first. But if you set the bar and you say you're never going to have a piece of cake again, then they go, forget it, I'm not doing this, right? So it's really finding that fine line of what works for that person.
Yeah, and it comes back to everybody's different. Not everybody's different physiologically alone, everybody's different psychologically. So with my clientele, I love to give them a menu and say, eat this. And some people are like, whoa, that's just too rigid. That's too, here's your grocery list. It's easy. Here's the recipe. Put this food together and put it in your mouth and it will work. Some people,
because I hated that. Like my style, I don't want, like, and I have other people just give me a list and tell me what to eat, give me a menu and I'll just follow it. And it's like, I can't stand that either. It's like, but some people, that's what works for them. But for me, it's like, hey, pick A, B, C, do the combination you want. If you hate tuna, don't eat tuna all day. If you love it, then great, right? So it's kind of figuring out what works for that person, you know, and then just taking that step and saying, okay, I'll eliminate. Let's get rid of the garbage food, and then you can fall on whatever end of the spectrum you want to. But we got to get rid of the processed food first.
Here's that principle to follow rather than a menu. And yes. So let's not eat 6 times a day. Let's see if we can satiate you for 3 meals a day. Let's stop grazing. what foods are going to make you more satiated so you don't feel like you have to eat every half hour, every hour. Take the M&Ms and get them off the countertop so that you're not grabbing every time you go by. So that's a style of nutritional counseling that's very different than here's your menu, but both are very effective as long as you match it to the right person.
Yeah, and we see it all, Troy, you see it too. And, when we have the continuous glucose monitor on people, we'll see they go, I just had this certain protein bars, low carb, look at your sugars. Every time you eat it spikes like crazy. Every single time. We got to change something. So it's one of those things where people, when they see it, they say, yeah, I see it. Like, it's not my opinion anymore. And then they can see it. And then they can see their hypoglycemia afterwards, and they're spiking their insulin. We know that. That's what the mechanism, what's happening. So I think there's a lot of things like that where we just tweak it. And Tro, do you have something burning in your brain you want to, or can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead. I got my questions right here. But
well, look at that, man. You're organized.
Beauty.
Well, no, I was just saying, hey, look, a guy like you, Jeff, the big thing is what happens to someone who, like, as a matter of fact, I just had a 2-month plateau. Now I kind of broke through it. I made some changes, but doing 1 meal a day just didn't work for me. My body I can do it mentally, but my body just did not like that. So I go, okay, not working. I have to change it up. I can't say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this and it's not working. So what do you do with people who are frustrated where they're plateaued out? They lose like that first 15 or 20 pounds and then they're stuck and they're just sideways. You're working out with them. I know you're doing that, but what do you do either mentally or nutritionally? What kind of the reason I ask is at the Low Carb USA meeting just recently, people left and they're like some people are saying do protein, high protein, low fat day. Other people go on a high fat, low protein day, and you're like, who's right, who's wrong? Or is it individualized? I don't know if you say, let's try one, and then we go to the other one, which one you have more success with.
It's funny that you let off the question with meal frequency, because that's kind of a legacy thing that I would always do before I went low carb, but I still do it now. I still feel like there's a range of meals that are optimal. It's between 2 and 4 for different people, especially if you have somebody with low lean body mass, or they're sarcopenic, or they're borderline osteoporotic. Then frequent meals might improve absorption, and they might improve the amount of food that you can get in, especially if someone has a low appetite. You and I share a patient, and he's 79 years old. The guy can plank for 7 minutes. The guy can leg press with me standing on the leg press or the leg extension machine. But we struggle to keep him above 150 pounds. And if he ate 1 meal a day, he would lose weight. So he has to consciously eat 4 meals a day and not overeat, because if he eats 1 big meal, then he loses his appetite the rest of the day, and we can't get in a proper amount of food or protein. With this guy, obviously, protein's a marker. We got to get that essential level of protein in every day. So meal frequency is one way we do it. Another way we do it, and that was hot on the conference, is to do a protein sparing modified fast. And Maria Emmerich was talking big about this at the conference. And I found that intermittent fasting works really good for endomorphs. So if I'm using a somatotype as a name. So endomorph is somebody who's just naturally thick. Endomorph is like, when you think of an endomorph, you think of a Samoan, right? And when you think of an ectomorph, you think of a long distance Kenyan, right? So these people they have a genetic propensity for being either thin or thick, and that their bone structure lends themselves to that. So the endomorphs tend to do really well on long-term fast and intermittent fasting because they hold on to lean body mass. Ectomorphs do not, right? So if they fast even a little bit, and that's what I was always worried about when we first started fasting and low carb, was that my clients that are coming in to gain weight are not only going to lose fat, they're going to lose muscle. I think I lost a little muscle when I started doing this as well. So the protein modified fast is a kind of counterintuitive for a ketogenic diet, because it's low fat. It's just eating lean protein rather than fasting, rather than even intermittent fasting. On that day, you can just portion out 1 gram of, I like to say, this is a little bit different than Maria, 1 gram per pound of lean body mass is your protein requirement. And if you can't get that in, that's tough, right? So if I'm 10% body fat at 200 pounds, that's 180 grams of protein I'm trying to get in. And that's a lot. That's a lot. I range it between 1 pound per, or 1 gram per pound of lean body mass and 1 gram per pound of skeletal muscle mass. So skeletal muscle mass is a subset of lean body mass. It doesn't count for your bone, water, and organ weight. It's just the meat on your bones. And that's the range. So for me, that might drop to a little over 100 grams of protein. That's more manageable. And supposedly, and in my own experimentation since the conference, it's worked well. We've had, I don't know how you can measure the degree of autophagy, but it seems like the fasting is causing fat loss, measurable fat loss, while maintaining muscle. So alternatively, rather than doing intermittent fasting every week, once to two times a week, we just do a protein day, and that's that protein sparing modified fast. Other things I've done for my endomorphs are fat fasts. So if I know that they're not going to lose lean body mass and they don't like to fast, I'll have them eat just primarily healthy fats. I'll have them, it's funny, in the old days, we would eat egg whites. Bodybuilders eat egg whites, throw away the yolk, right? And on a fat fast, it's the reverse, right? Eat just yolks, very little whites, eat oil. In fact, this is not tolerable for some people, but for some of my clients who've had an alcohol in their past, we've done a shot glass of olive oil where we put the salt, get the lime, do a shot of olive oil, chase it with a little bit of lime, and on a fat fast day, they've stomached that. Some people just can't handle that, but that's another method that we've used to bust plateaus: fat fast, protein sparing fast, and modify meal frequency. And there's more, but those are 3 little manipulative tools that we do to bust plateaus.
Yeah,
Tro, would you do a shot of olive oil? Would you do a shot if I let you chase it with a little lime?
I've never taken a shot. You know what though? Actually, a lot of the Middle Easterns, like my parents would probably do it. Yeah, my parents have probably done it. I know some people, they do it like it's like a remedy. They take like a little tiny amount of olive oil. I got to be honest. I've seen meal frequency. In general, I found most people can do like about 1.5 meals. More active, usually we tolerate up to 2 meals. Less active, if they're not hungry, they can go much less. But it's certainly, you can modify that, right? If somebody's working out, doing a lot of exercise, even going up to 3 meals.
You think too much? You think 3 is too much?
No, I don't think. For the average person, I think 2 is probably fine. I think the average person, but you have highly active people. So I'm imagining 3 is probably very reasonable. It's not unreasonable. Also because there's some thought of, are you actually absorbing all that protein in one big massive meal? Right. So, and that's a reasonable, I don't think there's good, like there's theoretic data supporting the idea of, okay, if you have higher protein needs, get more protein in more frequently. The problem is honestly, we weren't made to restrict our eating. We were made to eat. We were driven to eat. We were driven to, so it's hard to tease out exactly what to do. And the fat, I think that's also, a tricky thing, how much fat to add, how little fat to add. I found most people will have a tendency to just add fat to everything, right? Most people will have that tendency. And some people, it certainly helps their appetite, like it'll make them less hungry. And so maybe they win. But I found for the most people doing keto long enough and low carb long enough, I think that they certainly, the cravings for fat go up. I've seen it in myself. If I try to lower cheese, nuts go up. If I try to lower nuts, dark chocolate goes up. If I try to lower dark chocolate, oil goes up.
It's the flavor food, right? In the absence of sugar, And the fat is the flavor food, right?
Yeah, so I call it the fat whack-a-mole, because it's just going to come up in a different way. So if I stop the oil that I'm adding to my vegetables, then I'm all of a sudden eating fattier cuts of meat. Like it's like this never-ending battle. And so I've certainly seen that restricting added fat has helped a lot of people, right? Like, restricting added fat. Like if you're adding cream to your coffee, for example, that's like one that we've worked on and we've seen some good results from. But there's been other people where that you lower that fat and they're starving.
Yeah.
They're like you lower the added fat and they're now eating more frequently. Their appetite comes back. So I agree with you. It's not one size fits all, and sometimes it just takes, small changes in a long time. Now, when you're busting through these plateaus for your clients and patients, when you make a small change, how long do you have them? Like, I think expectations, we always need to keep them, we have to make sure those expectations are in line. So let's say you were playing with their meal frequency or playing with their fat or protein. How long would you tell them to do it before kind of reassessing and saying, all right, maybe this isn't working? For me,
days.
it's 2 months. Yeah. So 1 or 2 months, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I do a 2-week check-in to determine compliance, right? In other words, are you doing what we said we did? We're going to do, because you don't want to reassess in a month and they say, well,
I never did it.
I never did it. Yeah, exactly.
And then here's the problem though. Even at let's say you got rid of cream in the coffee and you stopped adding, cheese and butter to everything, right? Let's say you did that, right? So, and you're still eating meat, you're still eating fish, you're still having eggs and Greek yogurt and all this stuff. I mean, for most people, right, if you think about it, all right, the expectation should be maybe 2 or 3 pounds of fat loss for that month. I mean, would you say 3 pounds of fat loss is a reasonable monthly goal?
Honestly, Tro, in the old days, I would. Now,
yeah.
No, the average, and this is for those that are.
No, this is a plateau, right? We're talking about not like just starting,
And a reasonable expectation, even if you bust a plateau, is I'd say still 2 to 3 pounds a week. Now that might not
fat
happen,
loss,
but it might not be the first 2 weeks. It's not linear.
Well, you may not, but you might not see it on the scale either, because if they're working out with Jeff and they're putting muscle mass, and I'm telling you, I will tell you, I know this has happened because I've seen it enough where people will, doing the calipers, but
it measures to 1/10 of a millimeter. So that's below. That's with below margin or within. There's a great margin in body fat, but we can see subcutaneous changes rather quickly if you're measuring to 1/10 of a millimeter.
But I think what we're seeing is a lot of people, and I've seen it on the continuous glucose monitor. I've seen it in when we look at their body composition, where in the first few months, sometimes in the first 6 weeks or 8 weeks, a lot of times their muscle volume goes down, even though they're working out and lifting for the first time, because they're losing fat within the muscle. That's the only explanation I can have for this, that they're losing fat, like they're going from a ribeye steak to a sirloin steak in their muscle. And that's helping their insulin sensitivity, because over time, then boom, their muscle mass starts going up like crazy, especially guys working out with you, Jeff. I see it.
That's in the exercise physiology textbook. The first fat to go is intramuscular fat. Why? Because it's closest, it's most convenient, where they're going to pull it from, right? Where's that lipid going to come from? From a vacuole that's close to where that contraction is happening. Let's talk a little bit about Rob Sires.
Well, can I come back to the question? So, all right, so let's just. Okay, so you're saying 2 pounds of fat a week for a plateau breakthrough,
But you might not see that until day 28.
Perfect. This is what I'm talking about. So let's just say, from what I've measured, I think like 3-4 pounds of fat in a month is reasonable. So what happens? You fast forward a month, right? And let's say they only lost, 2 pounds of fat. What do? You have them keep going. And let's say, here's the other thing, right? On their own scale. So on your scale, with the calipers, they lost 2 pounds of fat, 3 pounds of fat, like a little bit heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay. So, they're heading in the right direction, but on their scale, they're a little constipated. ate a little bit of salt, holding on to water.
Yeah.
So what do you like? What do you do? What are you thinking in your mind? All right, here's a month went by. They did this change. Seems like they're doing it. They're getting reasonable results for you, not reasonable results for them.
Right. So
What
there's
are you
three
saying
factors.
to these people? Yeah.
There's three factors. One, you determine compliancy. And compliancy is a big thing. Is this doable? Is the regime that we've created sustainable? And if they say yes, it's easy, then you're doing well. If they say no, it's not sustainable. Even if it's effective, it's not sustainable. So you still got to change the program. The second is perception. If we think they're doing really well, but they feel like they're just sucking, they're not doing, I'm failing. This is a failure, even though I can show them on the metrics. But man, you've lost 5 inches in 6 weeks off your waistline. You know, I'm sure if we did your blood work, that would confirm that things are going really well on the inside as well as the outside. So if they still don't feel like they're doing well, we got to change the program as well. You got to make a change, and that change might even be a placebo change, because it's perception is going to determine whether they continue on the program, right? Well, maybe you need to, drink your green tea at noon rather than breakfast, and that's going to make a big change. Is it going to make a big change physiologically? No, but mentally, oh, that was the recipe that made things work. And then the third thing is actual results. So when I do a body fat, I do old school, and I do it for a reason. Old school. You guys probably use the Seeker or bioimpedance, and it's very sophisticated. But I have 20 points of data. I have 10 calipers, 10 tape measures, and if only their calf measurement went down and everything else stayed the same, I'm going to clap my hands for that calf measurement improving, to give them a sense of accomplishment. And sometimes it works, and sometimes they're like, oh, it's only my calf. But a lot of times they're like, well, you as my professional are cheering me on and saying that that's good. I'm going to keep going. So with every follow-up, I always do those 3 things. 1, compliancy. 2, their perception of effectiveness. And 3, the actual metrics. And then whatever combination occurs, then you manipulate the program. And in most cases, we're manipulating the program anyway, just to keep them fresh, just to keep them not sick of tuna, not sick of, imagine getting sick of steak. Some people do if they eat it every single day. Not our crazy carnivores, but some people do. They're like, no more steak.
Yeah, we had a group call this Tuesday, where I don't know, roughly like 50 people just, interested in keeping healthy, having a community, right? We get together throughout our practice, and, somebody was saying they're just so sick of eggs and sick of steak, and they're just tired of it. And, and this person, they're amazing person, nice person, and so hard on themselves, right? And I just posed a mental question. I was like, well, what would you say if I made you like a low-carb pizza right now and I gave it to you? And they were like, I would love you. I would love that. It would be totally great, right? But like, people want to stick to their ideals sometimes, but at the same time, they're feeling the frustration, like we're people at the end of the day. We're not hibernating bears, right? If you wake up that hibernating bear and put a pizza in front of it, what do you think that hibernating bear is going to do? It's going to eat it, right? But this person's eyes lit up, and you can tell, like, okay, at the end of the day, sometimes we're not robots. We're just humans, and sometimes like doing small little things like that, like getting a little bit of food enjoyment, a little variety, it can changes everything. And in fact, if you look at the literature, and I'm sure you know about this literature, Jeff, it's the diet holidays. You remember the diet holiday? Like every single bodybuilder, right?
Yes.
What do they have? Refeeding and diet holidays.
What's my cheat day, Jeff? Does this program have a cheat day?
Yeah, always.
Before they even get the program, they want to know if there's a cheat day.
Yeah, but actually, if you look at the data for professional bodybuilders and professional kind of athletes, they really encourage these diet holidays, and there's some data saying that people do better.
Oh, I definitely agree. Just there's a dangerous psychology, right? There's a cheat day and there's a treat day. there's a reward day, and then there's a I'm going to be bad day. We have a guy that's going through the program. He's a type 1 diabetic. Dr. Brian, you know him, good friend of ours from LA, and he's had a tremendous weight loss, tremendous transformation, and he went from a ketogenic diet now to a carnivore diet to a meat only diet, meat and water only, meat no salt, not even any added electrolytes. And I feel like this client's going down a dangerous path of, there's almost like this badge of honor. There's this, it's like a nutritional martyrdom. You know, I'm going to restrict, I'm following this, and look at me, I'm surviving just on meat. I can eat, you know, a raw cow and be in optimal health. And long term, I think that's detrimental. That's disordered eating, in my opinion. If you restrict everything, no, I'm not going to have a piece of chicken because I only eat red meat. Now, if there's a medical reason, of course, but for no other reason as to restrict yourself, I think they call it orthorexia. It's disordered eating.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? So there's a balance. I think sometimes we like to think of things in this primal lens, this ancestral lens. Like, you know, I've seen it on the internet. People are doing like raw carnivore diets and raw, you know, vegan diets. And I just think to myself, there's some benefit in getting rid of the taste and eating just to eat and not, you know, exposing yourself to a wide variety. But that's just in comparison to what man has made. Right? Like the only benefit to that is because we've gone overboard and our cereal aisles are filled with like tons of varieties and our chip aisles are filled with tons of varieties. I'm with you. I think like there was that pendulum swings both ways.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Fine. Like, okay, you got out of the system. You're out of the matrix. You
Yes.
understand that, you know, variety can make you eat more. You understand that these food companies have been trying to get us to eat. Okay, but at the end of the day, just like I said, this person was in this group meeting. She just needed to feel human. You know, she just needed a low carb pizza.
Yeah.
Like totally, the face changed. Like the eyes lit up. It was like I can't. And she said literally, I can't do more eggs. Right now, there are some people who are completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. They come in, they're like making low carb pizza, low carb waffles, low carb cookies, and I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
You got to go down. You got to go like you
You can spend hours a day cooking and mixing recipes and going through all the stuff, and you got a family. It's brutal. Other people go, I'll just throw a steak on the barbecue, right? Other people don't even want to barbecue, and so you know, it's just if you can figure out what works. I have one guy. I laughed when he started telling me what he was doing. I said, you know, I don't know if this is going to be sustainable, but it is for him. He just cooks up a bunch of meat, and then one day he adds this sauce, the next day he adds this sauce, the next day, and he's like happy. He goes, I'm happy. This works perfect for me. I'm like, okay. Like he doesn't need a lot of variety. Some people like they can have a steak every single night and they're happy, and they're like, okay, if you enjoy it and you're having results, cool. Because if you're that person who's going to make all that, like you said, the brownies and the cookies and the dumplings and all this stuff, it's just going to be a rough road. I think because you don't realize all those carbs are adding up. It's like going to Walmart. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and everything says low carb, but you're, you know, like people are going to Costco and getting these low carb cookies, you know, crackers, and it says like, okay, you get to eat 3 of them, and people are eating 40 of them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not going to work. It's not going to be good.
Right.
Or macadamia nuts or almonds or whatever it is, and they're getting the flavored almonds. You're like, look how much sugar's in the flavored almonds. It adds up.
Right.
Plus, it's palatable. Like Tro is always talking about the hyper-palatable stuff. You're gonna eat more of it. There's no doubt.
I think so. Here's the thing, right?
Hyper-palatable. That's a good word.
That's Tro's. I stole it from him.
Nature can make hyper-palatable. I mean, you can be. So that's the thing. Like, it's very easy to tell that man will make food better. But like, I can take, you know, whipped cream. Right? It's made out of cream. You just whip it and combine it with some nice, fresh, red, you know, juicy berries. Right? And what do I have? I have hyper-palatable. Right? So like, I think, look, the problem is, you know, everybody's looking for a miracle. Should I eat this? Is this good? Is that good? You know, are nuts healthy? Yes. Is full fat dairy healthy? Yes. You know, are fruit healthy? Yes. Right? Can man eat them in a way that's not healthy? Definitely.
Definitely, yes.
You know, definitely, yes. So I think that's the problem is everybody's looking for food rules, and sometimes it's not food rules. Jeff, you said this. I don't want to just give people a plan and like you follow this. I want to teach them concepts. I want to have them understand. Yes. You know, and that's the hard part. Yeah. You know, it takes years to, like, I mean, I'm still learning about appetite. Like I'm I've read, thousands of papers at this point, and I'm still learning new things.
Yeah.
So
The more we learn, the more we know we don't know, right?
Yeah, bingo,
Yeah, and because that new patient comes in and you're looking like, wow, this is a different situation. Maybe we have to change it up, And as a matter of fact, a good example of that with the calories in, calories out. I mean, I know we've had people speak when we were talking about this, but Jeff and I had a guy that he had lost 90 pounds, I think, but then he plateaued for like a year or something. Yeah. And so Jeff brought him in. He looks at his metabolic rate. He's like, what are you eating? You're not eating enough. You have to eat more. And the guy's like, look, I'm already eating hardly anything and I'm not losing weight. He goes, you have to eat more. He does, right, Jeff? And it was hilarious because we saw the guy and he ends up losing like 14 pounds in the next, 3 weeks or something. It's ridiculous. Eating more because he was shutting his metabolic rate down. So it's so frustrating when you're like, I'm going to keep restricting more, because if it's not working, you can't keep doing that. You got to say, okay, this isn't working. I'm like hardly eating anything. I got to change something, right?
Yeah. I don't think people realize how sophisticated and how multifaceted the human organism is, and that we're highly adaptive, and the spectrum of what is normal or what is best is wide for us. Most of my clients that come in, even those that are educated, even those that have health related degrees, don't know the fundamentals of nutrition science. They don't understand that food is for primarily two purposes, and then a third outlies that. In other words, we need it for energy, and we need it for growth and repair, right? And then together, the balance of eating nutrients and energy or calories governs metabolism. So if there's nutrient deficient, there could be metabolism deficiency. If there's energy deficient, there could be metabolism deficiency. So people don't understand that, and they don't even understand the idea of an essential nutrient. And even amongst my current nutritionists, we even talk about just macronutrients. So what's your macros? That's the big buzz thing on the internet right now, or on Instagram, or on all these kind of fad fitness things. Like, you got to do your macros. It comes down to, you need essential amino acids, you need essential fatty acids, and your body will derive the glycogen that it needs from the food that you consume. You need vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes, and it will find it in sources. Let's get into just a little bit of what we were talking about before. If you've been listening since the beginning, we talked a little bit about protein. Before I started low carb, there was a bunch of research that we would do, or we would find on the best protein, and we were talking about whey protein and whey isolates and all these things. And the high carb research that came out was that there's almost like a glycemic index. So if you eat very little carbohydrate, or if you eat some carbohydrate and no fat with a whey isolate, your body will absorb it very quickly, but it can't use it. It's inundated, and there's positive nitrogen balance, and you urinate it out. So whey isolate, you can only absorb in small amounts. And then these other ways, like casein, that are closer to natural dairy, like cottage cheese, those things are not as quickly absorbed, but they stay in your bloodstream a little bit longer so that your body can derive them from it. So what I figured out from this research is that there's almost like there's a glycemic index for carbohydrate, there's an index for absorbability in protein. And so Rob Sivas at the last conference, the one before, I posed him this question. I said, so you think whey protein and lean steak is less anabolic than a prime rib or a fattier cut of meat? And he said yes. And the reason was the protein is digested slower around fat, and it stays in your bloodstream longer, and you're able to absorb and utilize those amino acids for a longer window of recovery than these short bouts where your body's either going to use it or urinate it out. So yes, we have to get a certain amount of protein in a day, but how well you absorb it will determine how many meals you eat, and then the source of the protein and the amount of protein that you can consume at a time. So if you're eating real lean protein, it's probably a less amount. If you're eating a real fatty protein, you can probably eat a larger portion of it, because your body's going to digest it and slowly absorb it, rather than this whey protein that can cause an insulin spike. There's my little protein.
Yeah, I've looked at that data. Whey protein is rapidly absorbed.
Yeah.
Typically, like within the first several hours. Casein can be even absorbed like 8 hours later, and kind of lingers in the bloodstream. Animal and casein probably mirror each other pretty closely.
Yeah.
In terms of the absorption. And we can leverage how we use these, right? So a lot of times if people want to fast, like we have people who work out early in the morning and they're like, Tro, should I fast all the way until night, or what happens if I'm doing a fast? Is there a strategy you think that would work? I think, I know the anabolic windows kind of come out of favor in terms of, that window where how much protein you have buffered in your kind of body, and then how quickly you need to absorb protein. We used to think, it was like a couple hours, right? Like you had to have protein within like 2 hours, and we know
window of opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. That first 2 hours, there's probably some theoretic truth to it, but I don't think clinically it matters at all. But we now know that that anabolic window is much longer than we thought, and it matters, what you ate before.
Right.
Imagine eating 12 hours before, like a big fatty cut of steak, like Rob Sivas was saying, right?
Right. That's exactly.
Now you may not need to rely on that whey protein right after you work out, and then how quickly you get to food and how quickly you absorb that food afterwards. Those all matter. Do you make specific recommendations? Like a lot of times we're very favorable on whey protein for people who are fasting. If you're fasting and you do a workout and you're like, what can I do? Like that kind of protein sparing modified fast approach, we're very favorable on whey protein. But, the other problem is, there's so much out there in the protein market, like the plant proteins, the egg proteins, and, how pure they are and what's not. I mean, what's the quick advice you give to people regarding protein and, how they should consider using it? Particularly active people who are listening are low carb, they're fasting. What's your, do you have like a quick 3-liner on what to do?
Sure. If you're trying to gain muscle and you're not worried about your body fat, then whey is appropriate, and I use it every day because I think I'm trying to artificially keep my weight higher than what my natural set point is. So I'll have whey protein, but I won't have it immediately before or directly after the workout. Definitely not right before a hard workout, because you don't want to divert blood to your intestinal tract when you're trying to divert it to the muscle. If you're trying to put on muscle and you're already at a lean weight, then you can have it a half hour after, 3 hours after, without any problem. If you are insulin resistant, have a lot of body fat to lose, and you're low muscled, then whey protein can be beneficial, but I usually do it when your natural growth hormone spikes. And so that might be a dessert before bed, a little bit of whey protein, because it's semi-sweet, and they can do that while they're sleeping, growing, and repairing.
Yeah, I love I love the quickest and easiest hack I have with whey protein is, if you got a problem with ice cream, get yourself some whey protein.
Yeah.
Whatever flavor you like, put some ice in a blender, and there you go. You got your ice cream replacement.
Yes.
I think that's one of the easiest hacks we have. And people are, a lot of times, I guess the perfection is in the way of progress. So people are like, well, whey, is it, I don't know. People have like these ideals.
Is it processed? Is it too processed? Yeah.
I think they get hung up on this stuff.
Yeah.
And what about egg white protein? What do you think about that, Jeff?
I like it. I think that whey is better. If you're going to do a powder, I think whey is more bioavailable and it's more strategic. But for those people that have an aversion to dairy, egg white is good. It doesn't taste as good, doesn't mix as well. And then if it's egg white, there is some research out there that say that egg albumin is less of a complete protein than the whole egg, that you get more branched chain amino acid in whey. But I'm not going to discount it. For a good portion of my life, I'd have an egg white omelet in the morning with my oatmeal.
Yeah.
We've seen, there was a group, I'm blanking on the name. Oh yeah, Clean Label Project. They're a not-for-profit called Clean Label Project. About 7 years ago, they analyzed all the different proteins on the market, and they looked at a whole whey, egg, casein, plant-based proteins. And basically, plant-based proteins had the most contaminants, heavy metals, or contaminants. So, and they found that basically, typically, egg white protein was the purest, just because it's very easy to process.
Yeah.
For the most part, whey did pretty well. It was usually more affordable. It was much better than the plant-based proteins in terms of contaminants and heavy metals. But typically the purest, quote unquote, was the egg white, and then, runner-up was whey. But then, I mean, there's so many different endpoints you can look at. I don't know if that makes it any more healthy or not, but it just, it's like there's a lot of things to look at.
I think it has to do with food production. We were appalled to hear about fast food, McDonald's and these other big chains mix their meat to the point where when you have one Big Mac, in the patty might have been parts from over a dozen different cows or more, because they just mix it all together. It's different. And so when we look at these protein extracts, and we look at why is heavy metal so high in a vegetable protein? That doesn't make sense. Well, it does make sense, because you need a whole bushel, you need a whole garden of peas to extract just the protein from it. So now you're using the whole farm to make a couple jugs. That's why they're expensive. And then how much milk do you need to extract the whey? Egg white, it's basically half the egg, so there's less parts of it going into the actual production of it. And I think that's where you get a lot of these additives, a lot of these inadvertent heavy metals or other minerals or other things that are in there because of the volume needed. We'll go ahead, we'll get up in arms about the meat in fast food, but then we'll say, the pea protein, it's great.
Well, yeah, and then you talk about seed oils and how much you have to go through to get you're talking about vegetable oil. How much oil's in a vegetable? How much you got to get the volume, and the chance of having more problems it's astronomical. Especially the chemicals they have to use. It's quite a process. Like margarine, just look at that process. You think, wow, that's pretty crazy. What if you want to talk about process, it doesn't get more process than that, I don't think. I mean, it's a huge process to do that. So, hey, Jeff, how do we? This hour went by too fast, man. I knew it would. So, how do people get in touch with you? If they want your services, other than being my patient, because I ship them all over to you. But, how do they get in touch with you? And you're doing a lot of other stuff. And a quick plug for Restore Health, who I'm starting to work with. They are using trainers that you train. So I said, okay, I feel comfortable with the Low Carb USA. They know your nutrition plan, your exercise program. They're working out with Ben's program, and all the stuff that I'm using, they put in one place. And so you're training all their guys. So you're actually training people to be, you can tell health coaches, and trainers, and all that. So tell them how people who are interested in that can get in touch with you, and also who want your services as a workout. And I know you do a lot online now. You're doing it all over. It sounds like.
Yes, we are.
So let people know about that.
Okay. So
and hold on just 1 second. And while you're doing that, our Patreon supporters, thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please type them in. You got a nutrition expert here, so take advantage if you have any questions right now. We can grab that after Jeff gives his information.
Yeah, let's do those questions. So this stands for the National Association of Sports Nutrition. You can just Google that. It's nasnutrition.com or nasn.us. And that's where you can learn to become a low-carb practitioner, a metabolic professional. We certify those. We certify personal trainers in Dr. Ben and Smart Training. We certify people in low-carb and ketogenic nutritional protocols for performance, for body composition, for recovery from exercise. That's great because we get to have conversations just like we're having here. You get to get access to other professionals that are like-minded, and you also get to be marketed as somebody that men and women who are physicians like this, who are metabolically healthy professionals, will refer to. So that's an option through the NASN. And then my practice, where people come and intern and people come and actually get services, patients get referred here and clients come, it's called the Tri-System Center. Tri-System, one word. Go trisystem.com, and that's the website there. And we do online training, virtual training. We do metabolic health planning and menu development, menu coaching all over the world through Zoom. And we develop binders, and we have an online accessibility to menus and things like that. And that's at trisystem.com. So shoot me an email, shoot me a phone call, shoot me whatever contact on the website, and I'll get back to you personally.
Yeah, man, keep up the good work. No questions? I can't believe that, Tro. Everyone must be sleeping. It's too early, man. It's West Coast people.
200 episodes in, we've educated them. You know, I can't believe this, Brian. We are at we're coming on. Did we hit 200 episodes? We're almost near 200
Man, we're
episodes.
Close, man. I mean, it's been 3 years.
Can we?
And what is it? What is this? 5 million downloads.
Yeah, we're
crazy.
getting close, man. We're working on it. Yeah, Jeff, maybe you'll throw us over the top. We'll see what happens. But
My goodness.
yeah, but just having the support and no sponsors, Tro. I mean, we made it 3 years with no sponsors, right? Tro said, "Hey, I think we have to settle up pretty soon." I'm like, "Oh, come on, man."
Do you want sponsors? Do you want?
No, we haven't taken sponsors.
I don't want
yet,
sponsors. No.
We didn't want it to be,
because I know
people to know we're we care about it, what we're talking about, not that we get a commission on your book or whatever,
I know that Kellogg's, Nestle, Pepsi, would they be dying to sponsor you guys?
Yeah, if they listen, they wouldn't be really excited about it anymore, I don't think. Yeah, that's the truth. A lot of things can't get on TV because if the sponsors don't like it, it doesn't show up on TV.
Right.
There's a lot of good projects out there that they just can't get funding, and it's pretty amazing. It's pretty sad actually when they're helping people and doing the right thing. And I know Reverse is coming out. We got to get those guys on, Tro. That's one thing I've been trying to get them on. So anyways, I think it's just what you're doing is awesome. I love it when my patients go to you because I know they're gonna have success. They're following with both of us, and Jeff will text me and go, "Hey Brian, did you see this person's sugar? Did you see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, man. I'm looking at it too." Because it's really great to have a team.
That CGM thing is great because I'll get an alert when they measure their blood glucose, and if it's low or high, I can immediately text them and say, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's immediate.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's really cool.
And then they're like, "Well, Big Brother, somebody's watching me." What? And then
it makes them less likely the next time when there's cookies around. I don't want Jeff to text me. I'm gonna just do my thing. Yeah. So hey guys, man, it was fun. Tro, do you have anything else you want to throw in here, man? Any other?
No, that's great. I've had a great time. Great time, guys.
Good conversation, guys. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one, Jeff. Have a good one, Brian.
All right, have a good one. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Patreon supporters, we greatly appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with us. We're glad we can do live things like this. And for everyone else, hopefully become a Patreon supporter so Tro doesn't call me and tell me I have to owe him money at the end of the year again. So, hey, but thank you.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, take it easy. Bye-bye.